The Crimson Nexus was not a place for honest people. The space station floated at the edge of known space, where laws meant nothing and credits meant everything. Juno walked through the narrow corridors with his head down and his hand on his empty wallet. He had come here to sell the last thing of value he owned, a navigation crystal that belonged to his grandfather. Without it, he could not afford fuel to get back to Earth. Without fuel, he would be stuck here forever. The marketplace smelled of oil and strange spices. Aliens of every shape and size pushed past him. Some had too many arms, others had no arms at all. Juno kept his eyes forward and tried not to look lost. Lost people became targets in places like this. He was heading toward the pawn district when he heard the shouting. A crowd had gathered near one of the old cargo bays. Juno knew he should keep walking. Crowds meant trouble. But something made him stop. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was boredom. He pushed through the aliens and looked at what they were staring at. 3 cages sat on a raised platform. Inside each cage was a girl. They were not human. Their skin was strange colors, violet and crimson and blue. They had markings that glowed faintly in the dim light. The oldest one had violet skin and silver patterns running down her arms. The middle one was crimson, with eyes like melted gold. The youngest had blue skin and white hair that floated around her head like she was underwater. They were beautiful. They were also terrifying. The violet one threw herself against the bars of her cage with a scream that made Juno's ears hurt. The crimson one hissed like a wild animal. The blue one just stared with wide eyes full of hate and fear. An auctioneer stood nearby, a fat alien with too many chins. "Exotic specimens from the Valoran Empire," the auctioneer announced. "Found on a destroyed royal vessel. These are princesses, ladies and gentlemen. Royal blood runs through their veins." Someone in the crowd laughed. "They look more like animals than royalty." The auctioneer's smile did not reach his eyes. "They are untamed, yes. Multiple empires have tried to civilize them. All have failed. They attack anyone who comes near. They refuse to eat unless forced. They are feral creatures now." "Then why would anyone buy them?" another voice called out. "For those with the skill to break them," the auctioneer said smoothly. "Or for research facilities that pay well for rare specimens. The bidding starts at 50,000 credits. Silence fell over the crowd. 50,000 credits was more than most people here would see in a year. The cages remained still except for the violent one, who kept throwing herself against the bars. Blood ran down her arms from where the metal cut her skin. 40,000, the auctioneer tried. More silence. 30,000? Surely someone sees the value here. The crowd began to break apart. No one wanted to buy 3 dangerous aliens who could not be controlled. The auctioneer's face turned dark with anger. "Fine," he spat. "If no one bids, they go to the experimentation facilities on Deck 9. I hear they pay by the pound for exotic tissue samples." Juno felt something twist in his stomach. He looked at the blue one, the youngest. She had stopped staring at the crowd. Now she was looking at her sisters with an expression Juno recognized. It was the look of someone who knew death was coming and could do nothing to stop it. His mouth moved before his brain could catch up. 800 credits. Every head in the marketplace turned to look at him. The auctioneer blinked. "What did you say?" 800 credits, Juno repeated, louder this time. His hand shook as he pulled out his credit chip. "And this navigation crystal. It is worth at least 10,000 at any decent pawn shop." The auctioneer stared at him. Then he started laughing. The whole crowd started laughing. A human with barely enough credits to buy food was trying to purchase 3 royal aliens. It was the funniest thing they had heard all day. "You are either brave or stupid," the auctioneer said, still chuckling, "but I accept." "They are yours, human. May they eat you slowly." The laughter followed Juno as he transferred his credits and handed over the crystal. His heart pounded in his chest. What had he just done? He had no money, no fuel, and now he owned 3 violent aliens who would probably kill him the moment they got free. The auctioneer had his people load the cages onto a cargo sled. "The cages are yours too," he said with a nasty smile. "You will need them. Do not let them out unless you want to die." Juno guided the sled through the station toward his ship. People moved out of his way quickly. The princesses hissed and snarled the entire time. The violet one had stopped throwing herself against the bars, but her eyes followed Juno with pure hatred. The crimson one made a clicking sound in her throat that might have been words or might have been a threat. The blue one had curled into a ball in the corner of her cage. His ship was called the Wandering Star. It was small and old and made strange noises when it flew. Juno loved it anyway. He loaded the cages into the cargo hold and sealed the door. The ship's AI came to life as he entered the cockpit. "Welcome back, Juno," Leah said in her calm voice. "I see you have acquired passengers. Scanning now. Warning. Life forms detected are in poor health. Warning. Life forms detected show high levels of stress hormones. Warning. You have no credits remaining for supplies." "I know, Leah," Juno said quietly. He strapped himself into the pilot's seat and started the launch sequence. "I know. May I ask why you purchased 3 hostile alien life forms with your last credits?" Juno looked at the camera feed showing the cargo hold. The princesses were still in their cages, still afraid, still angry. He thought about the look in the youngest one's eyes when the auctioneer mentioned the experimentation facilities. "Because no one else would," he said. The ship lifted off from the Crimson Nexus and headed into the dark between the stars. Juno had no money, no food, and no plan. But he had 3 passengers who needed help whether they knew it or not. He just hoped he could figure out what to do before they killed him, or before he ran out of air, whichever came first. The cargo hold of the Wandering Star was not built for passengers. It was built for boxes and containers that did not move or breathe or scream. The 3 cages sat against the far wall, bolted down for safety. Inside them, the princesses watched Juno with eyes that promised violence. Juno stood at the entrance to the hold with a tray of food. His hands shook slightly. He had been putting this off for hours, but they needed to eat. He needed to eat. The problem was getting close enough to give them food without losing a hand. "Okay," he said to himself. "Just stay calm. They are scared. You would be scared too." He took 1 step forward. The violet one bared her teeth. They were very sharp teeth. The crimson one made that clicking sound again, louder this time. The blue one just stared at him with those huge eyes. "I am not going to hurt you," Juno said slowly. He held up the tray so they could see it. "This is food. You must be hungry." The violet one threw herself at the bars again. The sound of metal hitting metal echoed through the hold. Juno jumped back, nearly dropping the tray. Okay, he said. "I will just leave it here." He placed the tray on the floor, halfway between the door and the cages. Then he backed away slowly. The princesses watched every movement. When he reached the door, he stopped. "The food is safe," he said. "I will eat some first to show you." He sat down right there in the doorway and took a piece of the ration bar from the tray. It tasted like cardboard, but he chewed it slowly and made a show of swallowing. The princesses watched without moving. Juno finished eating his piece and stood up. "See? Safe. The rest is yours." He left the hold and sealed the door. On the monitor screen in the corridor, he could watch them through the security camera. For a long time, nothing happened. The princesses stayed in their cages. The food stayed on the floor. Then, after almost an hour, the blue one moved. She crept to the front of her cage and reached through the bars. Her arm was barely long enough. Her fingers touched the edge of the tray and pulled it closer. She grabbed a piece of food and retreated to the back of her cage. Juno let out a breath he did not know he was holding. It was a start. The next day was harder. Juno tried to talk to them through the intercom. He used Universal Standard first, the language most aliens understood. They did not respond. He tried 6 other languages from his translator database. Nothing. They just stared at him or ignored him completely. "Leah," Juno said to the ship's AI. "Can you analyze their sounds? Maybe they have their own language." "Analyzing," Leah replied. After a moment, she spoke again. "The clicking sounds appear to be a form of communication. However, I do not have enough data to translate. I can tell you that their behavior suggests high intelligence despite their current state." "What do you mean, current state?" "They are not naturally feral," Leah explained. "Their actions show signs of learned behavior. They have chosen to act this way as a defense mechanism. They are protecting themselves." Juno thought about that. It made sense. If people had hurt them over and over, they would learn not to trust anyone. They would learn to be dangerous, so no one would come close. He spent the rest of the day trying different approaches. He sang to them, which made the Crimson One cover her ears. He told them stories about Earth, which they ignored. He showed them pictures of his home planet on a datapad pressed against the cage bars. The blue one looked at the pictures of the ocean for a long time before turning away. On the 3rd day, disaster struck. Juno was in the cockpit when the alarms started blaring. Leah's voice came over the speakers, urgent and loud. "Warning! Hostile vessel approaching! Pirates detected! They are hailing us!" Juno's blood went cold. He pulled up the scanner display. A ship 3 times the size of the Wandering Star was closing in fast. His communication panel lit up with an incoming message. "Unknown vessel. This is Captain Quan of the Free Ship Reaper. We know you have valuable cargo. Surrender it now, and we might let you live." Juno's hands flew over the controls. "Leah, all power to engines. We need to run." "They are faster than us," Leah said. "We cannot outrun them." "Then we go through that asteroid field ahead. They will not follow us there." "That is extremely dangerous. The probability of collision is—" "Just do it!" The Wandering Star dove toward the asteroid field. Behind them, the pirate ship followed. Juno gripped the controls and focused on the rocks flying past the windscreen. Left, right, up, down. The ship groaned and shook with every sharp turn. In the cargo hold, the cages slid across the floor despite being bolted down. The princesses held onto the bars as their world tilted and spun. The Violet One's cage hit the wall hard. One of the bolts snapped. The door bent inward. She threw her weight against it and the door burst open. She was free. Juno did not know this. He was too busy trying not to crash into a rock the size of a building. The pirate ship was still behind them, firing weapons that exploded near the Wandering Star. One blast hit the rear shields. The ship lurched violently to the side. Juno was thrown from his seat. His head hit the console. Blood ran down his face. Everything went blurry. He could hear Leah saying something about shield failure and hull damage, but the words did not make sense. He tried to get up and fell back down. Then he heard footsteps behind him. Slow, careful, dangerous. He turned his head and saw her. The Violet One, Hana. She stood in the doorway of the cockpit, free from her cage. Blood stained her arms from the broken metal. Her silver markings glowed brighter now. Her eyes were fixed on him. Juno tried to speak, but no words came out. This was it. She was going to kill him. He had saved her, and she was going to kill him anyway. But Hana did not move toward him. She moved toward the pilot's seat. She looked at the controls with sharp, intelligent eyes. Then she looked at the view screen showing the asteroids and the pirate ship. She turned back to Juno and made a gesture with her hands. It was not violent. It was a question. "Help me," Juno managed to say. He pointed at the shield controls. "That panel. Push the buttons that are glowing red." Hana stared at him for a long moment. Then she moved to the panel. Her fingers found the buttons. The shields flickered back to life, weak but working. Juno dragged himself back into the pilot's seat. Together, with him flying and her managing the shields, they made it through the asteroid field. The pirate ship tried to follow but hit one of the larger rocks. It spun away, damaged and retreating. The wandering star escaped into a thick nebula where scanners could not reach. Juno slumped in his chair. His head throbbed. Everything hurt. He felt hands on his face, gentle this time. Hana was examining his wound with careful fingers. She tore a piece of fabric from her torn clothing and pressed it against the cut. "Thank you," Juno whispered. Hana's eyes met his. For the first time since he had seen her, they were not filled with hate. They were filled with confusion, and maybe, just maybe, the smallest hint of trust. Juno woke up in his bunk with no memory of how he got there. His head felt like someone was hitting it with a hammer from the inside. The wound had been cleaned and wrapped with proper bandages from the medical kit. He sat up slowly and immediately regretted it when the room spun. "Leah," he croaked. "Status report." "You have been unconscious for 6 hours," the AI replied. "Your injuries are minor, but you lost some blood. The ship sustained damage to the rear thrusters, but we are operational. We are still hiding in the nebula." "And the passengers?" There was a pause. "All 3 are no longer in their cages. They are currently in the cargo hold. They have not attempted to enter any other part of the ship. They are calm." Juno's heart started pounding. They were free, all 3 of them. He stood up too fast and had to grab the wall for support. He made his way to the corridor and looked at the monitor screen showing the cargo hold. The 3 princesses sat together in the middle of the hold. The cages were open and empty. Hana, the violet one, had her arms around the youngest, the blue one. The crimson one sat nearby, watching the door. When Juno appeared on the monitor, she made that clicking sound. The other 2 looked up at the camera. They knew he was watching. They were not attacking. They were not trying to escape. They were just sitting there. Juno took a deep breath and walked to the cargo hold door. His hand hovered over the control panel. If he was wrong about this, if they were waiting to attack him, he would be dead in seconds. But something told him he was not wrong. He opened the door. The 3 princesses stood up quickly but did not charge at him. They stood together, watching him with careful eyes. Juno stayed in the doorway with his hands visible and empty. "Hello," he said quietly. Hana tilted her head. Then she opened her mouth and spoke. The words were rough and broken, like she had not used them in a very long time. "You saved us." Juno felt his eyes go wide. "You can speak universal standard." "Yes." Hana's voice was harsh, like gravel grinding together. "We all can. We chose not to." "Why?" The crimson one, Yuna, stepped forward. Her golden eyes were intense. "Because everyone who tried to help us before wanted something. They wanted to use us, to sell us, to study us like animals. We learned that being dangerous kept them away. Being broken made us worthless to them." The blue one, Nari, spoke in a whisper. "You are the first who asked for nothing." Juno felt something tight in his chest. He leaned against the doorframe. "I do not understand. You are princesses. You are royalty. How did you end up here?" Hana's face became hard. "Our people are dead. All of them. The Valoran Empire existed for 10,000 years. We had colonies on 50 worlds. We were artists and scholars and builders. We hurt no one." "What happened?" "Jealousy," Yuna said bitterly. "Other species feared our psychic abilities. They feared our influence. So they formed a coalition and destroyed us. They burned our homeworld. They hunted us across the stars. We were children when it happened. We escaped on a royal vessel with a handful of survivors." Nari's voice broke. "But the survivors died one by one. The ship broke down. We were found by slavers. We were 9 years old. That was 12 years ago." Juno felt sick. 21 years old, and they had spent more than half their lives in cages, being bought and sold, being hurt. "I am sorry," he said. It felt like such a useless thing to say, but he said it anyway. "I am so sorry that happened to you." Hana looked at him strangely. "Why did you buy us? You had no money. You gave everything you had. Why?" Juno thought about it. He had been asking himself the same question for days. "I saw you being sold like things instead of people. I saw them talking about sending you to be experimented on. And I saw Nari's face when he said it. She looked like she had given up. I could not walk away from that." "That is all?" Yuna asked. "No other reason? That is all?" The three sisters looked at each other. Something passed between them, some kind of silent communication. Then Hana spoke again. "In our culture, saving a life creates a bond, a debt. You saved 3 royal lives. That is not a small thing." "You do not owe me anything," Juno said quickly. "I did not save you for a reward." "We know," Nari said softly. "That is why it matters." Over the next few days, things changed on the Wandering Star. The princesses began helping around the ship. Hana had a gift for understanding machinery. She fixed the damaged thruster in half the time it would have taken Juno. Yuna organized the cargo hold with an efficiency that shocked him. Nari spent hours with Leah, learning about the ship's systems and about Earth. They taught Juno their clicking language. It was called Velaran hand speech, a combination of sounds and gestures that could convey complex ideas quickly. Juno was terrible at it, but they were patient teachers. In return, Juno taught them about human culture. He showed them movies from Earth. Nari loved the ones with oceans. She would watch the same scenes over and over, fascinated by the water. She had never seen a natural ocean before. The Valoran homeworld had been covered in forests. "I wish I could show you the real thing," Juno said one day as they watched a documentary about coral reefs. "Maybe someday," Nari said. But her voice made it clear she did not believe it would happen. Juno wanted to promise her that it would. That he would find a way to take her to Earth and show her the ocean. But he could not promise that. He had no credits. The ship was barely running, and he still did not know what to do with 3 alien princesses who had bounties on their heads. On the 5th day, Leah broke the silence with bad news. "I have been monitoring galactic communication channels," the AI said. "There are multiple bounty hunter broadcasts searching for the Valoran princesses. The reward is 10 million credits each. Alive only." Juno closed his eyes. "How many hunters?" "At least 20 confirmed vessels, possibly more." Hana, who was sitting nearby repairing a power coupling, put down her tools. "We should leave. We will take one of the escape pods. You have done enough for us." "No," Juno said flatly. "We will be caught eventually," Yuna said from across the room. "When that happens, anyone with us will be killed or arrested. We cannot ask you to risk that." "You did not ask," Juno pointed out. "I am choosing, and I choose to help you." Nari looked at him with those big eyes. "Why? You could sell us yourself. 30 million credits would change your life forever." "Yeah, it would," Juno agreed. "It would make me the kind of person who sells people. I do not want to be that person." The sisters were quiet for a long time. Finally, Hana spoke. "We need to get to Refuge Station. It is a colony for refugees and outcasts on the Outer Rim. I have a contact there who might be able to help us disappear. But it is 3 weeks away and we will be very visible." "Then we need to be invisible," Juno said. He was already forming a plan in his head. "Leah, plot a course through the least traveled shipping lanes. We go dark, minimal power, no transmissions." "That will be uncomfortable," Leah warned. "Life support will be basic only." "We can handle uncomfortable," Yuna said. She looked at her sisters, and they nodded. Juno set the course for Refuge Station. As the wandering star slipped through the dark between the stars, he realized something. These three aliens had become more than just passengers. Somewhere along the way, they had become his responsibility, his friends, maybe even his family. He just hoped he could keep them safe long enough to give them the life they deserved. 3 weeks of traveling through empty space changed things. The wandering star was quiet most of the time, running on minimal power to avoid detection. The lights were dim, the temperature was cold. But inside the ship, something warm was growing. Juno learned more about the Valoran Empire during those long, quiet days. Hana told him about their homeworld, a planet called Valora Prime. She described cities built into living trees that grew as tall as mountains. She spoke of art galleries where paintings could change based on the viewer's emotions. She talked about music that was felt in the mind instead of heard with ears. Our people were connected, Hana explained one evening as they sat in the cargo hold. Not like a hive mind. We were still individuals with our own thoughts, but we could feel each other's emotions if we chose to open ourselves. It made lying almost impossible. It made war unthinkable. How could you hurt someone when you felt their pain as your own? That sounds beautiful, Juno said. It was, Yuna added quietly, until the others decided we were too different, too dangerous. They said our abilities let us control minds. It was not true, but fear does not care about truth. Nari sat with her knees pulled to her chest. I do not remember much from before. I was too young. Sometimes I have dreams about the trees, about flying through the branches with my mother, but I do not know if they are real memories or just wishes. Juno reached out slowly and put his hand on her shoulder. She did not pull away. They are real, he said. I can hear the truth in your voice when you talk about them. Over the weeks, the princesses began to show signs of their psychic abilities returning. It started small. Hana would know what Juno was thinking about for dinner before he said it out loud. Yuna could make him see slight flickers of color in the air when she concentrated. Nari could sense emotions, especially strong ones like fear or happiness. It is because of you, Hana said one day. She and Juno were working on the navigation system together. Our abilities are coming back because you are here. I do not understand. I am just human. Humans are psychically neutral, Hana explained. You do not have abilities like we do, but your minds work as anchors. You ground psychic energy, make it stable. The Valoran Empire had human allies long ago. Your people helped us control our powers when we were children learning to use them. That knowledge was lost when our empire fell. Juno thought about that. So I am helping you even without knowing it? Yes, Nari said. She was sitting nearby, watching them. You make us feel safe. When we feel safe, our abilities return. We have not felt safe in 12 years. The statement made Juno's chest ache. 12 years of fear and pain. And now, on this small, broken ship, they finally felt safe enough to heal. He did not know what to say to that, so he just kept working. But he noticed Hana smiling as she handed him tools. On the 18th day of travel, Leah announced that they were approaching Refuge Station. Juno brought up the view screen and stared at what he saw. The station was massive, built from hundreds of salvaged ships welded together over decades. It looked like a patchwork city floating in space. Lights blinked from thousands of windows. Ships of every size and shape came and went like insects around a hive. It is beautiful, Nari whispered. It is home to 50,000 refugees, Hana said. People from dead worlds and fallen empires. People running from wars and persecution. If we can disappear anywhere, it will be here. Do you still have that contact you mentioned? Juno asked. Hana nodded. His name is Day. He is a forger. If anyone can create new identities for us, it is him. But his services are not cheap. We will figure something out, Juno said. He was getting good at figuring things out with no money. They docked at one of the outer platforms. The docking fee took the last of Juno's emergency credits. He had nothing left now except the ship itself. The four of them stood at the airlock, preparing to enter the station. "We need to be careful," Una said. "If bounty hunters are looking for us, they might already be here." Juno handed each of the princesses a long cloak from his storage locker. "Wear these. Keep your heads down. Try to blend in." The princesses pulled the cloaks over their colorful skin and unusual features. They would not pass close inspection, but from a distance, they looked like any other travelers. Juno led the way out of the ship and onto the station. Refuge Station was overwhelming. The main corridor was 5 stories tall and packed with beings from across the galaxy. Market stalls lined both sides, selling everything from food to weapons to illegal technology. Music played from speakers, voices called out in dozens of languages, the smell of cooking food mixed with engine oil and something Juno could not identify. Nari grabbed his hand. He looked down and saw wonder on her face. She had spent so much time in cages and cargo holds. This was probably the most life she had seen in one place since she was a child. "Stay close," Juno said. The four of them moved through the crowd together. They found Day's shop in the lower levels of the station, hidden between a weapons dealer and a noodle shop. The sign above the door was written in symbols Juno did not recognize. Hana led them inside. The shop was small and cramped, filled with computer equipment and scanning devices. An old alien sat behind a desk, his 4 eyes focused on a holographic display. He looked up when they entered, and 2 of his eyes focused on Hana. "I know that face," Day said slowly. "Even under that hood. Hana of Valora. They say you are dead." "We are trying to keep it that way," Hana replied. She pulled back her hood. "I need new identities for 3. The best you can make." Day's eyes widened. "Do you know how much trouble you are? Every bounty hunter in the galaxy is looking for you. The reward is 30 million credits total." "I know," Hana said. "Can you help us or not?" Day looked at Juno. "And who is this? Your keeper? Your captor?" "He is our friend," Nari said firmly. "He saved us." Something in Day's expression changed. He stood up and walked around the desk, studying each of them closely. "A human who saves Valoran princesses with bounties on their heads, either very brave or very stupid." "Probably both," Juno admitted. Day laughed, a sound like rustling paper. "I like you, human. Okay, I will help, but we must be quick. Word spreads fast on Refuge Station. If I heard about the bounty, others have too. Hunters may already be here." "How long will it take?" Una asked. "For proper identity chips that will pass most scanners? 2 days? Maybe 3. "We do not have 3 days," Juno said. Something in his gut told him they needed to move faster. "Then I work faster," Day said. "But you need to hide. Not on your ship. They will check all registered vessels. I have a safe room in the back. It is small but secure." Day led them through a hidden door behind a shelf of components. The safe room was indeed small, barely large enough for the 4 of them to sit comfortably. But it had basic supplies and a door that locked from the inside. "Stay here," Day said. "Do not make noise. Do not leave. I will come for you when the identities are ready." After he left, the 4 of them settled into the cramped space. Hours passed slowly. They talked in whispers about what names they would choose for their new identities. Nari wanted a name that meant ocean in some language. Una wanted something that sounded strong. Hana just wanted to be anyone except a princess. "What about you?" Hana asked Juno. "Do you want a new name too?" Juno thought about it. He had left Earth as one person and become someone else on this journey. Maybe a new name would fit the new him. "Maybe," he said. "But I kind of like being Juno. It is simple." "Simple is good," Nari said. She leaned against his shoulder, tired. Simple is safe. On the second day, Day burst into the room with panic on his face. We have a problem. Bounty hunters just docked, a lot of them. They are searching the station systematically. You need to leave now. But the identities, Hana started. Are not ready, Day said. I am sorry. You must go. If they find you here, we are all dead. Juno stood up. His mind raced. They could not go back to the ship. They could not stay here. Is there anywhere else we can hide? Day hesitated. There is one place. The lower levels, where the station's original structure is. It is dangerous. Unstable, but the hunters will not look there. Then that is where we go, Juno said. They left through a back exit that led to maintenance tunnels. The walls here were rusted and old. Pipes leaked strange liquids. The air smelled wrong. But they were alive and free, and that was what mattered. As they moved deeper into the bowels of Refuge Station, Juno realized something. This was not going to end peacefully. Sooner or later, they would have to fight. And when that happened, he needed to be ready. The lower levels of Refuge Station were like a different world. Up above, there was light and noise and life. Down here, there was only darkness and the sound of water dripping from broken pipes. The metal walls were covered in rust and strange growths. The air was thick and hard to breathe. Juno led the way with a small flashlight. The princesses followed close behind, moving silently through the abandoned corridors. They had been walking for hours, getting deeper and deeper into the forgotten parts of the station. No one came down here anymore. It was too dangerous. The structure could collapse at any moment, but it was perfect for hiding. They found a space that had once been a storage room. Most of the floor was gone, fallen away into darkness below, but there was enough solid ground for them to rest. Juno checked the walls carefully before letting anyone sit down. The metal groaned under their weight, but held. How long do we stay here? Yuna asked. Her golden eyes glowed slightly in the darkness, one of her psychic abilities manifesting. As long as we need to, Juno said. He sat down carefully and pulled out the last of their food rations. There was not much left, maybe enough for one day if they were careful. Hana sat next to him. We cannot hide forever. The hunters will not give up. The reward is too high. I know, Juno said quietly. I am working on a plan. What kind of plan? Juno did not answer because he did not have one yet. He was making it up as he went, and that terrified him. These 3 people were depending on him to keep them safe, and he had no idea how to do that. Nari, who had been quiet since they entered the lower levels, suddenly spoke. There is someone nearby. I can feel them. Everyone froze. Juno switched off the flashlight. In the darkness, they waited. Footsteps echoed from somewhere close. Not the heavy boots of bounty hunters. These were lighter, more careful. A figure emerged from one of the side tunnels. It was an alien Juno had never seen before. With pale gray skin and no eyes at all, it held a glowing rod that provided dim light. When it spoke, its voice was gentle. You are the ones they are looking for. The Valoran princesses and the human. Juno stood up slowly, putting himself between the stranger and the sisters. Who are you? My name is not important, the alien said. What matters is that I live down here. I have lived here for 20 years, since my own people were destroyed. I heard what is happening above. The hunters are searching everywhere. Are you going to turn us in? Yuna asked. Her voice had an edge to it, ready for violence. The alien made a sound like laughter. For money? I have no use for money down here. No, I came to warn you. There is a bounty hunter who is very good at his job. His name is Quan. He is Thonros, a tracker species. He will find you eventually. Nothing stays hidden from the Thonros. Then what do we do? Juno asked. You leave the station, soon. The hunters are spreading out, but they have not blocked all the docking bays yet. There is still time. Our ship is being watched, Hana said. The alien nodded. Yes, but there are other ships whose owners would help if they knew the truth. Refuge Station is a place for people who have lost everything. Many here understand what you are running from. You need to tell your story. Juno thought about that. It was risky, very risky. But staying here until they were found was certain death. How do we tell people without the hunters hearing? I can help with that, the alien said. I know the communication systems down here. Old tunnels, old wires. I can send a message to the right people, the ones who will care. Over the next hour, Juno told the alien everything. About buying the princesses at the Crimson Nexus, about the journey to Refuge Station, about how they just wanted to be free and live in peace. The alien listened without interrupting. This is a good story, the alien said when Juno finished. A true story. I will share it. But you must do something for me first. What? Juno asked, suspicious. When you are free, when you are safe, remember this place. Remember that there are others like me, hiding in the dark because they have nowhere else to go. Help them if you can. I promise, Juno said. He meant it. The alien left them with some supplies, including water and better lights. Then it disappeared into the tunnels. Juno and the princesses waited in the darkness, not knowing if they had just made a terrible mistake. Hours later, Leah's voice came through Juno's communication device. The signal was weak but clear enough. Juno, something is happening on the station. People are refusing to cooperate with the bounty hunters. Some are actively hiding information. I am detecting organized resistance. The message got out, Hana said with wonder in her voice. Juno smiled. People care. They actually care. But the relief was short-lived. Leah spoke again, more urgent this time. However, one hunter has broken away from the others. He is moving toward the lower levels. His ship's scanner signature matches Thanros technology. I believe this is the one called Quan. How long until he reaches us? Juno asked. 15 minutes, maybe less. They ran. The lower levels were a maze, but Hana seemed to have a sense for which way to go. Her psychic abilities were growing stronger every day. She could feel the station around her, sense the solid paths from the weak ones. They were climbing a ladder up to the mid-levels when they heard the voice behind them. Stop running. It will only make this harder. Juno looked down and saw him. Quan was tall and covered in dark scales. His eyes were solid black, and they seemed to see everything. He carried no weapon, but Juno knew that did not mean he was unarmed. Thanros hunters were weapons themselves. We do not want trouble, Juno called down. Quan laughed. You bought trouble when you bought them. 30 million credits. That is my trouble. That is my retirement. Hand them over and I let you live. No, stupid human. You cannot protect them. I have hunted bigger prey than 3 scared girls in a freight hauler. Something hot and angry flared in Juno's chest. They are not prey. They are people, and I will die before I let you take them. Quan started climbing the ladder. He moved fast, impossibly fast. Juno reached the top and tried to pull the ladder up, but it was bolted to the wall. The princesses were already through the hatch, but Juno was still climbing out when Quan's hand grabbed his ankle. He fell. The world spun. He hit the ground hard, all the air leaving his lungs. Quan stood over him, ready to strike the killing blow. But then the 3 princesses appeared above. Their abilities flared to life all at once, stronger than Juno had ever seen. Hana thrust her hands forward, and an invisible force slammed into Quan, throwing him backward. Yuna waved her fingers, and suddenly there were 5 Junos, all identical, confusing the hunter. Nari screamed, and a wave of pure terror crashed over Quan, making him stumble. Juno scrambled back up the ladder. The princesses pulled him through the hatch, and Hana twisted the metal closed behind them with her mind. They ran again, but this time Juno knew they could not keep running forever. "We need to get back to the ship," he said between breaths. "It is surrounded," Una reminded him. "I know, but we do not have a choice. Leah, can you remote start the Wandering Star?" "Yes," the AI replied, "but taking off will be difficult with the hunter's ships nearby. Just be ready to fly when we get there." They emerged into one of the main corridors and chaos surrounded them. People were fighting with the bounty hunters, blocking their paths, causing confusion. A large alien stepped in front of Juno and his group. "This way," the alien said. "We will cover you." Tears filled Juno's eyes. These people did not know him. They did not know the princesses. But they were helping anyway because it was the right thing to do. Because Refuge Station was named that for a reason. With the help of the station's residents, they made it to the docking bay. The Wandering Star waited for them, engines already warming up. But between them and the ship stood a line of bounty hunters, and at the front of that line stood Quan, burned and angry but still standing. "Last chance," Quan said. "Give them to me." Juno looked at the princesses. Hana met his eyes and nodded. Una cracked her knuckles. Nari took a deep breath. "Together?" Juno asked. "Together," they answered. Then the fight began. The docking bay exploded into violence. Quan moved first, faster than anything that large should move. He lunged at Juno with claws extended. Juno barely dodged, rolling to the side. He came up near a cargo container and grabbed the first thing he could reach, a metal rod used for loading freight. It was not much of a weapon, but it was something. Behind him, the three princesses stood together. Their psychic abilities flared like fire. Hana's silver markings glowed bright enough to light the entire bay. Una's golden eyes burned with intensity. Nari's white hair floated around her head like she was underwater. The other bounty hunters moved in, but they were not ready for what happened next. Hana thrust her hands forward, and three of them were thrown backward, slamming into the wall hard enough to dent metal. Una created illusions, making one hunter see his weapons turning into snakes. He screamed and dropped everything. Nari projected waves of emotion, and two hunters suddenly felt overwhelming sadness and sat down crying. But Quan was different. He was Thanros, bred for hunting. Psychic attacks barely affected him. He charged at Juno again, and this time his claws connected. They raked across Juno's shoulder, tearing fabric and skin. Pain exploded through Juno's arm. He swung the metal rod wildly. It connected with Quan's head with a satisfying crack. The hunter stumbled but did not fall. He laughed, a terrible sound. "You are brave, human, stupid, but brave." "I am tired of hearing that," Juno said through gritted teeth. He swung again. This time Quan caught the rod and ripped it from Juno's hands. He threw it aside like garbage. Juno backed up until he hit the wall. There was nowhere left to run. Quan raised his claws for the killing blow. Then Hana screamed. It was not a scream of fear. It was a scream of fury and power. The psychic force that erupted from her was visible, a wave of distorted air that slammed into Quan like a hammer. He flew across the bay and crashed into his own ship. The metal hull dented from the impact. Hana ran to Juno's side. "Are you okay?" "I have been better," Juno said. His shoulder was bleeding badly. The world was starting to blur at the edges. Una and Nari joined them. Together, the three princesses formed a protective circle around Juno. Their psychic abilities intertwined, creating a barrier that the bounty hunters could not cross. Every time one tried, they were thrown back. "We cannot hold this forever," Una said. Her voice was strained. Using this much power was exhausting. "You do not have to," said a new voice. Everyone turned. Standing at the entrance to the docking bay was a group of station residents. There were dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all armed with whatever they could find. Tools and pipes and actual weapons. At the front of the group was Day, the forger. "Refuge Station protects its own," Day announced loudly. "And these four are under our protection now. The bounty hunters hesitated. They were skilled fighters, but they were outnumbered, and the station residents looked ready to die if necessary. It was not worth it. One by one, the hunters began backing toward their ships, all except Quan. He pulled himself from the dented hull of his ship. Blood ran down his face from where Hana had thrown him. His eyes were wild with rage. "I do not care about your protection. I do not care about your rules. They are mine. I claimed them." "No one belongs to you," Juno said. He pushed himself away from the wall, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. "Not anymore." Quan roared and charged. But this time he was not facing just Juno. He was facing all four of them working together. Juno ducked under the first swipe. Hana used her psychic force to push Quan off balance. Yuna created an illusion of a pit opening in the floor, making Quan hesitate. Nari flooded him with the memory of every person he had hurt, every life he had destroyed for money. It was too much. Even a Thanros hunter had limits. Quan fell to his knees, overwhelmed by emotion and exhaustion. He looked up at Juno with something like understanding in his black eyes. "You win." "Human," Quan said quietly. "But there will be others. The bounty will never go away." "Then we will face them too," Juno said. "Together." Quan nodded slowly. Then he stood and walked to his ship. He stopped at the entrance and looked back. "You are either the bravest or the most foolish being I have ever met. I hope for your sake that you are brave." Then he was gone, his ship lifting off and disappearing into space. The remaining bounty hunters followed quickly. They wanted no part of this fight anymore. When the last ship departed, a cheer went up from the station residents. They had won. They had stood together and protected their own. Day approached Juno and the princesses. "Your identity chips are ready. I finished them during the fight. New names, new backgrounds, clean records. As far as the galaxy is concerned, the Valoran princesses died years ago." "Thank you," Hana said. She took the chips from Day and distributed them to her sisters. "How much do we owe you?" "Nothing," Day said. "Consider it my contribution to making the galaxy a slightly less terrible place." An older alien woman stepped forward. She had kind eyes and scars that spoke of a hard life. "You should go to Earth. I hear the humans have laws against slavery, strong laws. They would protect you there." "Earth," Nari whispered. Her eyes lit up. "The ocean planet." Juno thought about it. Earth, home. He had not been back in 5 years. He had left because he was running from his own problems, trying to find something in the stars that he could not find on the ground. Maybe he had found it after all. "Would you want that?" he asked the princesses. "Coming to Earth with me? Do you want us to come?" Yuna asked carefully. Juno looked at the three of them. Hana with her strength and intelligence. Yuna with her fire and passion. Nari with her gentleness and hope. They had been through everything together. They had fought and bled and survived. "Yes," he said simply. "I want you to come home with me." The journey to Earth took 6 weeks. Juno used the last of his emergency fuel and borrowed some from the station's charity reserves. The wandering star limped through space, barely holding together. But it held. During those weeks, things changed. The princess's psychic abilities grew stronger with each passing day. They learned to combine their powers to work as one. With Juno as their anchor, they could do things that should have been impossible. Hana could move objects across the ship with her mind. Yuna could create illusions so real they were hard to distinguish from reality. Nari could read emotions from light years away. But more importantly, they learned to be people again. Not princesses, not feral creatures. Just 3 young women who had been given a second chance at life. They laughed, they cried, they told stories and shared dreams. Nari spent hours looking at pictures of Earth's oceans, planning which ones she would visit first. Yuna wanted to see Earth's art galleries and theaters. Hana wanted to learn human engineering and maybe go to university. "Do you think people will accept us there?" Nari asked one night. They were all in the cargo hold, which had become their shared living space. "Some will, some will not," Juno said honestly. "Humans can be just as scared and suspicious as anyone else, but there are good ones too. People who will see you for who you are, not what you are." "Like you," Hana said. Juno felt his face get hot. "I am not that special." "Yes, you are," Yuna said firmly. "You spent your last coin to save 3 strangers. You risked your life over and over. You gave us back our humanity. That is very special." When Earth finally appeared on the view screen, Juno felt tears in his eyes. The blue and white planet hung in space like a jewel. He had forgotten how beautiful it was, how much he had missed it. "Is that it?" Nari pressed her face against the glass. "Is that Earth?" "That is home," Juno said. Leah guided them through Earth's orbital traffic and down to the surface. They landed at a small spaceport in a coastal town. The moment the airlock opened, the smell of salt air filled the ship. The sound of waves crashing against rocks carried on the wind. Nari was the first one out. She walked down the ramp slowly, like she could not believe it was real. Her feet touched the ground and she fell to her knees, crying. Her sisters joined her, holding her as she sobbed with joy. Juno stood nearby, giving them their moment. He looked up at the sky, at the clouds moving across the blue expanse. He thought about the journey that had brought them here, about a decision made with his last coin in a dark marketplace on a forgotten station. He had saved them, but in a way, they had saved him too. 6 months had passed since the wandering star landed on Earth. 6 months of healing and learning and becoming something new. Juno stood on the beach watching the sunrise paint the sky in colors that reminded him of the princess's skin, violet and crimson and blue, all blending together. The cottage behind him was small but comfortable. He had bought it with a loan from the human colonial fleet after they granted the princess's official refugee status. It sat on a cliff overlooking the ocean, with enough room for 4 people who had become a family. "You are up early?" Hana said. She walked up beside him, carrying 2 cups of hot tea. She wore simple human clothes now, a sweater and comfortable pants. Her violet skin still drew stares when they went into town, but fewer each week. "Could not sleep," Juno said. He took the tea gratefully. "I was thinking." "About what?" "About how different things are now. 6 months ago I had nothing. No money, no future. No purpose. Now I have all 3. Hana smiled. "You always had purpose. You just did not see it yet." The human colonial fleet had offered Juno a job as a cultural liaison for psychic species. His experience with the princesses made him uniquely qualified. He spent his days helping newly arrived refugees adjust to Earth, teaching humans about alien cultures, and occasionally testifying in court cases about the horrors of the galactic slave trade. It was hard work, important work, work that mattered. "How is Nari doing?" Juno asked. "She is already at the beach," Hana said with a laugh. "She has been there since dawn. I think she would live in the ocean if we let her." Juno could see the distant figure in the water. Nari spent every free moment swimming in the sea. She had taken to it like she was born for it, learning to dive and surf and just float on her back watching the sky. The ocean had healed something deep inside her. The fear that had lived in her eyes for so long was finally gone. "And Yuna?" "She left early for the university. She has a presentation today about Valoran art and culture. She is nervous but excited." Yuna had enrolled in the local university's art program. Her illusion abilities made her a natural artist, able to create paintings and sculptures that seemed alive. Her work was gaining attention. A gallery in the city wanted to display her pieces next month. She was becoming known not as a refugee or an alien, but as an artist. It was all she had ever wanted. Movement behind them made Juno turn. Una herself came running down the path from the cottage, her crimson skin flushed darker with exertion. "Juno! Hana! Turn on the news! Quickly!" They hurried back to the cottage. The television screen showed a news broadcast. The reporter was talking about a major development in galactic politics. The images showed familiar faces. Bounty hunters being arrested, slave traders in chains, and at the center of it all was footage from Refuge Station, from the day they fought Quan. The human colonial fleet announced today that they have launched a galaxy-wide initiative to end the trafficking of sentient beings, the reporter said. The program, inspired by the case of 3 Valoran refugees and the human who saved them, has already resulted in hundreds of arrests and the liberation of thousands of slaves. The screen showed an interview with a fleet admiral. "One human's act of compassion has reminded us all of our duty to protect the defenseless." Juno's story, and the story of the Valoran princesses, shows that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is care about someone else more than yourself. Juno stared at the screen in shock. "I did not do anything special. I just bought 3 people from a bad situation." "You changed the galaxy," Una said softly. "One person at a time, starting with us." The news report continued. It showed refugees being welcomed to Earth and other human colonies. It showed new laws being passed to protect psychic species from exploitation. It showed the faces of people who had been saved because someone decided to care. Nari came running in from the beach, still wet from swimming. "Did you see? Did you see the news? They are calling you a hero." "I am not a hero," Juno protested. "I just did what anyone should do." "That is what makes you a hero," Hana said. She put her hand on his shoulder. "You did what anyone should do, but most would not. You gave everything when you had nothing. You risked your life for strangers, and you never asked for anything in return." The broadcast ended, but the feeling in the room remained. They all stood together in the small cottage, 4 people from 2 different worlds who had found each other in the darkness and chosen to be a family. Over the following weeks, things got busier. Juno was called to testify before the Galactic Council about his experiences. The princesses joined him, telling their story to representatives from 1,000 worlds. Their testimony helped pass new laws, new protections for refugees and survivors of genocide. People started calling them the Valoran 4. Not 3 princesses and a human. Just 4 people who stood together and changed things. More refugees came to Earth. The princesses used their growing abilities to help them adjust, to heal their trauma, to give them hope. They became symbols of survival and resilience. Young aliens across the galaxy looked at them and thought maybe, just maybe, there was a future worth fighting for. One evening, a year after they first landed on Earth, Juno found himself back on the beach where it all began. The 4 of them sat together watching the sunset. Nari played in the shallow water. Una sketched the sky on a digital pad. Hana worked on a holographic display, studying for her engineering courses. "Do you ever regret it?" Hana asked suddenly. "Spending your last coin on us?" Juno thought about everything that had happened. The fear and pain and close calls with death, the exhaustion and hunger and uncertainty. But he also thought about the laughter and the late-night conversations, and the feeling of belonging to something bigger than himself. "Never," he said. "Not even once." "Good," Una said without looking up from her sketch, "because we do not regret you either." Nari ran up from the water and threw her arms around Juno, getting him completely soaked. "Best investment ever, right?" Juno laughed and hugged her back. "Best investment ever." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in impossible colors, Juno realized something. He had spent his whole life looking for meaning in the stars. He had traveled the galaxy searching for something he could not name. But meaning was not found in distant places or grand adventures. It was found in small choices, in deciding to help someone when it would have been easier to walk away, in giving your last coin to save a life, in standing up and saying this is wrong and I will not accept it. He had been untethered and lost, drifting through space with no real purpose. And 3 feral alien princesses, broken and afraid and deemed worthless by everyone else, had given him an anchor. They had given him a reason to be better than he was, to be braver than he felt, to be the kind of person who did the right thing even when it cost everything. The princesses had been deemed untamable. Everyone said they were too damaged, too dangerous, too far gone to be saved. But they were never untamable. They were never feral. They were just 3 people who had been hurt so badly that they forgot how to trust. All they needed was for one person to see them not as problems or prizes or threats, but as people. People who deserved kindness and safety and a chance at a normal life. Juno had given them that chance with his last 800 credits and a navigation crystal, and they had given him everything in return. "What are you thinking about?" Hana asked. She had noticed his silence. "I am thinking about how lucky I am," Juno said. "I thought I was saving you, but you saved me too." "We saved each other," Nari said simply. "That is what families do." Family. The word settled over them like a warm blanket. They were not related by blood. They were not even the same species. But they were family in all the ways that mattered. The stars began appearing in the darkening sky. Juno looked up at them and smiled. Out there, among those distant lights, were others who needed help. Others who needed someone to see their humanity when everyone else saw only profit or problems. The work was not finished. It would never be finished. But that was okay. Because now he knew what he was meant to do with his life. He was meant to care, to help, to be the person who did not walk away when walking away would be easier. The wandering star sat in its hangar nearby, repaired and ready to fly again. Someday soon they would need it. There would be other refugees to rescue, other lives to save, other chances to prove that compassion was not weakness, but the greatest strength of all. But for now, they had this moment. This perfect evening on a beach on Earth, with the sound of waves and the warmth of family surrounding them. They had fought through darkness and pain to reach this light, and it was beautiful. "I have a question," Yuna said. "If you could go back to that day at the Crimson Nexus, knowing everything that would happen, would you still spend your last coin?" Juno did not even hesitate. "Yes. 1,000 times yes. You 3 are worth more than all the credits in the galaxy." Nari wiped tears from her eyes. "We were told we were worthless, broken beyond repair, untamable." "You were never any of those things," Juno said. "You were always valuable. You were always whole. You just needed someone to see it." Hana stood and pulled her sisters up with her. They stood together, 3 survivors of a dead empire and 1 human who refused to give up on them. The Valoran 4. A family forged not in blood, but in choice and courage and love. "To second chances," Hana said, raising an imaginary glass. "To found families," Yuna added. "To kind humans who spend their last coins," Nari said with a grin. "To the future," Juno finished. "Whatever it brings, we face it together." The waves crashed against the shore. The stars shone overhead. And 4 people who had been lost and broken and alone stood together on a beach, finally home. They were untamable, the galaxy had said. Too damaged to be saved, too dangerous to be helped. But the galaxy was wrong. They were not untamable. They never had been. They just needed someone brave enough to try. And in the end, that made all the difference.